Now, as I mentioned at the top of the program, it is the halfway mark of the election campaign today, and it was also the last day of isolation, the first day of freedom for Anthony Albanese after 7 days of COVID isolation. It unfolded a little bit like this. Yes, he's free to campaign again, is the opposition leader. But is that a good thing for the Labor Party? Let's find out from former Labor Party strategist Cameron Milner, who's now Director at Next Level Strategic Services. Thanks for joining us, Cameron. Look, we saw Labor's polling decline actually stabilise and tick back up earlier in the week. We saw Jason Clare and Jim Chalmers do pretty well in the media. We saw Albanese not do much serious media at all. So it's good for Labor to hide their leader, right?
Look, Anthony Albanese had COVID, and I think that's well known. And obviously, thank goodness, after only 7 days, he's able to come out of isolation. He looked fantastic this morning, walking Toto, but also doing media interviews and being prepared to go to Perth for the campaign launch on Sunday. And in the meantime, Team ALBO was out there. And as you said, Jason Clare, sensational. But Jim Chalmers, I mean, what a talent. Jim Chalmers has done phenomenally well on the issue of inflation and really took it to Morrison and Frydenberg on the economy.
Oh, yeah. Well, he gets up there and spouts some lines, but the only policies that Chalmers has promoted during this period is more spending on JobKeeper, more spending on vaccination, more spending on buying an airline. So Labor's policies could have only been inflationary. But coming back to ALBO, he could have done more. He was
Jim announced some savings as well.
Yes.
But the restrictions required ALBO after 7 days to rest up in isolation. I think.
But hang on a second. He says doctor's orders. I mean, how do you get doctor's orders? You're home isolating. You just take Panadol. There's no doctor involved. He said he felt fine. We saw in the few interviews he did that he was fine. He just chose not to do a virtual press conference or a virtual speech or a virtual debate. He did a bunch of soft interviews and one tough one. I'll grant him that. He did one tough one with Ray Hadley. It was obviously a political strategy to take the time out from the campaign and allow everyone to forget about his horrible start.
Unlike James Ashby's very clever ad he put out today, clearly he caught COVID, I think at the Blues Fest when he was up there. He had to go into isolation, and I wish him really all the best now that he's out of isolation and back to the front lines.
Well, here he is. Here's what Anthony Albanese said about his time in isolation and what it did to the campaign.
What it's shown is the strength of Labor's team. I have a magnificent team that I lead. We're ready for government.
Yeah, so there they are. That's what Albanese says. In the meantime, there were some problems, though, for his team. There was a horrible mangling over carbon tax, safeguards mechanisms, where Pat Conroy and Chris Bowen and others had different views of it. And there was also border protection, where Christina Keneally still doesn't seem to understand how this works. Here's a bit of Christina on Sky.
Peter Dutton said the timing of the video was pretty unusual. Do you agree with him? No.
Which third countries would you send refugees and asylum seekers to if you need to look to regional resettlement for people who
I answered this question yesterday.
Which countries?
I answered this question yesterday.
Yeah, that was Christina at a press conference. She also had a wrangle with Laura Jays here on Sky. But this is a problem for Labor, isn't it, that border protection comes up again? It's the issue's been endorsed effectively by Operation Sovereign Borders today with the video they've put out. And Christina Keneally and Anthony Albanese have always opposed tough borders, saying they'll keep them but get rid of TPVs shows they don't get it.
I'm not going to go into the policy detail, but I thought Anthony Albanese handled that very well at the Leaders' Debate. He dealt with the fact that as Deputy Prime Minister, he brought in serious restrictions and he supports Operation Sovereign Borders.
No, but he got it wrong.
Christina.
He got it wrong in the debate. That was his big mistake in the debate. He said that the coalition was not promising to turn back boats, whereas that was the key issue. He and Labor and Kevin Rudd were saying it's impossible to turn back boats. You'll start a conflict with Indonesia.
Well, I think as you've heard since, and obviously it was dealt with the press conference after the Leaders' Debate as well, we support Operation Sovereign Borders, we support strong borders, we support turning the boats back.
All right, I just want to show you very briefly the photo shoot that Anthony Albanese has done. This would have been done before he went into isolation. Let's have a look. A very fancy photo shop here, or a photo shoot of Anthony Albanese, looking very dapper and kind of dark and gloomy, isn't it? This sort of make him look like a Al Capone here rather than a friendly, happy leader.
I remember Paul Keating on the front page of Rolling Stone with a black and white photograph that looked pretty good too. So I think Albo's looking great.
All right, great. Thanks for joining us, Cameron. I appreciate it.